Today we will be working on articles in the English language. We will be focusing on the sentence level of language. In this lesson, we will talk about when each of these articles is used and how you will use them. I will also give you a small test at the end to make sure that you understand. So, let's begin. In English, there are two different types of articles that we are going to talk about today. The indefinite articles, a and an, and the definite article, the. We are first going to get into explaining indefinite articles. These are only used before singular count nouns that are not specific. For example, a girl walks home from school. There are a few different rules that go along with indefinite articles. The first rule is that you would use a before a noun or adjective that begins with a consonant sound. So you could say a car or a bright blue car. Another rule is that an would be used before a noun or adjective that begins with a vowel sound. For example, an umbrella or an orange umbrella. One thing to think about when using indefinite articles is that some words are a little harder than others. Words that begin with the letter H or U may have different beginning sounds, which would change whether or not you use a or an before them. For example, a hot plate would sound very different than an hourglass. The H is silent in the second example, meaning you would choose the article that sounds like the vowel sound. There are more rules that are used with the definite article the. You can use the when talking about something specific. For example, in general, you'd be talking about an apple. But when talking about a specific apple, it would be the apple instead. You would also have to use the definite article when speaking about the same noun multiple times. Instead of always having to say the noun plus the word that describes it, you can instead just refer to it as the object because you're talking about the same thing. Yet another rule with definite articles is that it can be used with the names of countries that look plural. For example, you could say, I live in the United States. Because the country has an S on it and looks plural, you would put the in front of the word. You would also use the definite article with all bodies of waters and geographic parts of the globe. You could say, I live next to the Rocky Mountains. And the final rule that you could use the for is the parts of something, unless it's the parts of the body. That's the only time that you do not use the. So if you're talking about a house, you could cook in the kitchen or sleep in the bedroom. So let's recap. The indefinite articles a and an are used when talking about general things. Some examples are a girl, an apple, a pencil. There are two different types of indefinite articles. You would use a before a noun that has a consonant sound at the beginning, like a bike or a cage. The word an would be used before nouns that have a vowel sound, so that's a, e, I, o, and u. An apple or an orangutan are a couple of examples of when this article would be used. Definite articles are used when you are talking about something specific. The article the is also used when you're talking about the same noun multiple times. It could also be used when talking about countries, bodies of waters, or anything geographic. Does that all make sense? Great! So now it's time to test yourself. I'm going to give a few examples, and I want you to write down whether or not an indefinite or definite article is being used. Get ready! The first one is, the dog ran away from the house again. The second one, she put a feather into her hat. All right, here's the third one. Jacob bought the TV last week. And the last one, we are still an hour away from getting to the park. How do you think you did? Let's go over them together. The first one was talking about a specific dog, meaning that you use the definite article. The second example, we're talking about a feather. Because feather starts with a consonant sound, you would use the article a. With the third one, we are again talking about something a little specific, so we'd use the definite article. And the last example was the one that was a little bit tricky. Hour begins with a consonant sound, but because the H is silent, you would base the article off the sound, which is the vowel sound that is after hour. So, does this make sense to you? Hopefully it does. This is just one of the lessons that complete our English language.